Hi there, I'm Dr. Paul Chung. These are some of the main topics that I go over with parents during the 15-month and the 18-month-old well child check. As far as nutrition goes, food is more important than the volume of milk at this age. So in general, we recommend offering 3 meals and 1 or 2 snacks. And the volume of milk that we recommend is offering anywhere from 1 to 3 times per day. And the amount of milk recommended is somewhere around 16 ounces per day, but it depends on how well your child is eating regular food that dictates how much milk he or she may need. So I would say rough estimate is around 16 ounces per day, but there isn't a minimum amount of milk that your child must drink per day. And I would say in general, anywhere from 0 to 16 ounces is appropriate. If your child tends to be more on the picky side and isn't a big eater, then a little bit more milk is appropriate to wash down food or after meals. And if your child doesn't want milk because he or she is not that hungry because they're such good eaters and have such good appetites, then again, even 0 milk would be okay. And there isn't a minimum amount of milk that you have to hit. Always continue to offer food before milk and avoid things like giving milk as soon as they wake up in the morning or from a nap, and then giving a meal 30 minutes to an hour later. So it's ideal to give food and then wash it down with milk so that milk prior to food doesn't impact a child's hunger for food. Now, children do usually become more and more opinionated as they get older, and they want to do things their own certain way, and they tend to test limits and boundaries to see in different situations if they can get what they want. So a child might become pickier as they get older with food and only want specific things like pasta or bread all the time and not want to eat vegetables, or they may want fruit all the time and nothing else. So these would be my recommendations for picky eating at this age and as they get older, which is very common. It's a parent's job to provide nutritious foods enough times per day, 3 meals and 1 or 2 snacks. And it's the child's job to decide what they eat. It's not the parent's job to force them or make them eat these specific things during meal times. So you can set meal times at whatever duration that you'd like. Let's say it's 20 to 30 minutes, and let your child decide what they want to eat. And after that meal time is done, if they haven't eaten it, then just clear it away and just know that you're going to offer them nutritious things many other times during the day, and give them time to become less picky and choose what they do and don't want to eat. So it's better if you make less comments like, you need to eat this, you're not going to grow well if you don't eat this, why aren't you eating the vegetables? If you just eat pasta all the time, then you're not going to. So the more comments like that you make, or the more pushing that you do, then the child interprets that as pressure, and subconsciously meal times become less enjoyable for them, and they tend to become more and more picky as time passes. If you stay relaxed with it and avoid those types of comments and just trust that they'll eat more as they get older, and as you stay relaxed about it, then that's what makes them gradually eat better. So even though it is a little bit counterintuitive and a parent feels a responsibility to have their child eat nutritious things and eat enough to grow well, you will automatically be setting them up for doing those things as long as you offer nutritious things enough times per day. And it is not your job to make your child eat a certain amount every meal or every day. And as you have this relaxed approach, that is the thing that's going to make them relaxed and enjoy meal times more and more. And that's what will, over the long run, set your child up for having a nutritious and healthy diet. I will include some articles and web pages in the descriptions that elaborate on these strategies. And so one will be an article about picky eating from healthychildren.org, from the American Academy of Pediatrics. And the other one will be from Ellyn Division of Responsibility in Feeding, that also elaborates on this type of mindset and strategy. One other thing I'll clarify about how to approach picky eating would be, again, if at certain meals or a certain day, your child is not eating well, and even if that lasts for multiple meals or days in a row, don't feel pressure to come up with a solution quickly to make up for whatever calories might not have been eaten. So if your child didn't eat that well on a certain meal, don't feel like you have to come up with games or bribing. If you eat this, then I'll give you this, or let you look at this screen. Don't feel like if they didn't eat what you set out in front of them, then you have to make up for it by giving them this certain food or this certain snack that they do eat all the time. Don't feel like you need to make up for it by giving them a larger amount of milk than you intended to. Just trust that the relaxed approach will be effective with time. You don't need to negotiate or make up for a small amount of calories with overly creative strategies. As far as sleep goes, the total number of hours of sleep we expect a child to have at this age is somewhere between 11 to 14 hours per day. Again, like I said earlier, a child is going to naturally test limits and boundaries to see if they can get things to be more enjoyable the way that they want, even though it might not be the right thing for them. So they'll try different things to get sleep the exact way that they want it to be the most pleasurable for them, even though it might not be the healthiest. So children will commonly have sleep regressions where they won't want to go to sleep at bedtime. They'll want to sleep in your room with you, or they'll want you to stay in the room with them until they fall asleep. And you should teach them during these sleep regressions that that's not how bedtime works, that they need to learn to soothe themselves to sleep, even though they want you to do that every time, just so you don't put yourself in a position where that becomes the pattern and you have to do that every night. And the potential pitfall of that is that children will have sleep regressions, and before, when they used to sleep a certain number of hours straight through the night, they'll start waking up after 3-4 hours, 1, 2 or more times per day. And if you've trained them that at bedtime, they're able to soothe themselves to sleep, and that's how sleep works, then you would have set them up that they'll be able to soothe themselves to sleep when they wake up at night. And the standard is not for you to always wake up and intervene and help them go back to sleep. So when these sleep regressions and nighttime awakenings happen, most children, they've been growing well. Their stomachs are much bigger than when they were small infants in the first 1 to 2 months of life. And they do not need to feed in the middle of the night, and they're not waking up because they're hungry and need to get milk or something else. They are waking up just like anybody can tend to do, wanting to have parent intervention to help them go to sleep. So it's a behavioral issue, not a physical issue, a vast majority of the time. And just like sleep training for an infant, it is not emotionally harmful for you to teach them that even though they're upset about it, even though they're crying, even though they're having a tantrum and yelling and they want you to come, the right thing is to teach them that they do have the capability to soothe themselves to sleep. And once you go through that difficult re-sleep training during these sleep regressions, then that will teach them that no matter how much they complain or tantrum, this is not the way to get what they want, as far as parents staying in the room with them every time they wake up, or parents are not going to bring them to their bedroom, and you just have to learn to go back to sleep on your own. So if you go through that few days of difficult re-sleep training, then the sleep is going to be better for everyone in the family, including your child. And on a side note, the number of naps that we expect at this age is 1 or 2, so each family can choose whatever works better for them at this age. And I can make some comments about behavioral recommendations for things like tantrums or separation anxiety in general, outside of picky eating or sleep. Again, it's very normal for children to have big emotions about things like not wanting to be separated from a parent, not wanting to go to daycare, not wanting to do any type of things like get in the car seat or take a bath or brush their teeth, or protest things that they do want. They want the parent to drop everything and pay attention to them right now and not pay attention to potentially another sibling, or not want to share with another child. So if a child is tantruming and throwing a fit in a way that is not safe for them, or you're in a public situation where you cannot allow this to continue happening, then you might, in certain situations, do a younger version of timeouts before children really understand timeouts, which might be something like you put them on your lap or just in front of you, facing away from you, and bear hug them until they complete the tantrum. So this is not some type of hugging reward for acting this way, but something to calm them down if they're about to do something like run into the street or something that would be obviously dangerous to them. And of course, by the way, before I continue with how to manage the tantrums, it is definitely recommended that if you know that certain things trigger tantrums that can be avoided, like they're hungry or they're overtired, then of course try to do things to prevent those things as much as possible and redirect the child away from things that might trigger them. If you're doing perfectly with all these things and the child is well fed and not overly tired, they still invariably will have tantrums as they get older to test limits and boundaries. And what we recommend to deal with things like this is something along the lines of briefly acknowledge to show that you're not purposely ignoring them, but let them continue with the tantrum. So it'd be something like, Matthew, I know you want to do this right now with dad, but you're going to have to wait a little bit. And let them have the tantrum so that they learn with time that having a tantrum and screaming at the top of their lungs or crying for a long time is not an effective way to get whatever they want, whenever they want. And it's not a way to get parents' attention every time. And so then they'll learn that this is not an effective method, and that will help gradually decrease the tantrums over time instead of reacting in a way that you do whatever you can to stop them tantruming, and then they will subconsciously learn that this is an effective way to get mom or dad's attention, and that might make those behaviors escalate or perpetuate them for longer periods of time. I'll include in the description a couple good books that elaborate on dealing with these toddler type behaviors as a child gets older. One is called No Bad Kids by Lansbury. And the other one's title is High Five Discipline. So I'll make sure to include references for those in the video description. Shifting gears a little bit to other miscellaneous topics, I do remind parents to continue to clean or brush their teeth twice per day. The most important is at night after the last milk or meal, although you do not need to standardly give a child milk at night at this age. And you should continue to use a rice grain sized sliver of toothpaste with fluoride. And as another reminder, it is recommended to get a first dental checkup sometime after a child turns 12 months old. As far as developmental milestones go, some of the milestones we expect for a 15-month-old as far as motor milestones are being able to take a few steps on their own, being able to feed themselves with their fingers. Some social milestones are bringing something to show the parent if they want to share that experience with them. Language milestones are things like saying at least 3 words, although they do not need to be pronounced well, and a syllable to mean a word is definitely appropriate and acceptable. And receptive language milestones would be things like if you say an object or something like a dog or the car, then they know some of those objects and will be kind of looking for what that is. For an 18-month-old, motor milestones would be things like being able to walk well on their own, being able to climb on and off a low sofa type apparatus. Social milestones will be things like pointing if they want their parent or someone else to look at something. Language milestones would be being able to say at least 5 words and being able to follow a simple command like bring it here or come over here, things of that nature. Those are some of the main topics I go over during the 15 and 18-month-old well child check. And the next checkup after that is typically a 24-month-old well child check. I'll see everyone on the next video.